Alright, so this is part two, excuse me, of constructing the human head. And we have our skull. This is our skull that we did with geometry. We had a cylinder for the mouth area, a cylinder for the cheekbones, a donut for the nose, cubes for the eye sockets. You can see it's very geometric, but it's structured. Try sculpting this from a single sphere and get all these details. Not going to be so easy to do. Takes a certain amount of skill. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to use those skills at some point anyway. So arriving at a structured beginning as early as you can is going to be helpful. So it took about a half hour to get to this point, which, that's not bad. So next we're going to build onto it, flesh it out a little bit more. And maybe the starting point would be to kind of add the neck, I guess you could say. And maybe the easiest ways to do that are we could start with 3 cylinders. Or 1. We'll start out with a cylinder to represent the spine, even though that's not something you generally sculpt. Whoa, that skull is small. How do we do that? Alright. Do we just scale this up? Let's scale this skull up. Alright. Yeah, I was wondering why I had it on curvature. I went into the rendering to kind of give some definition, and it really did some weird stuff to it, and I couldn't figure it out. I think it's because of the scale. So the scale affects the way the curvature looks, which is kind of good to know. All right, so now we're back. Let's add the cylinder, and we could position it as the spine, just to have kind of a rough structure to build onto. And so the spine comes to the center of the skull. So what we want to do is get a gentle curve in there. Use the move tool. Go back to transform. Rotate that a little bit. And so what happens is, oh, I wonder why they did that. I didn't mean to do that. Alright. It shouldn't have happened. Alright, so what it is the spine curves back out to the rib cage and then it comes back in. That's a whole different thing. But right now we have a structure to kind of build on if we need to. Really, it's kind of in the way. But next we can add a throat, I guess you could say. That angles a little bit forward, like that. Come back a little bit. Alright, so we have that going. I wonder if I should. Yeah. Next, we could add the sternocleidomastoids. Wonder if we could just use this. We could use this. Well, they're vertical. They're more vertical. So let's see. Scale that down. It's about the same mass as the other one. And we're not getting terribly detailed with these. Sorry, the mailman's out there. Sorry. All right, so we're not getting too terribly detailed with these. It connects to this, which is the base of the skull, behind the jaw. It comes down to the sternocleidomastoid means sternum, cleido means clavicle in German, or it represents that, and mastoid. So it connects to the sternum and the clavicle and the mastoid process. So technically we could have added, you know, the sternum and all that, but the throat kind of gives us a location where that point might be. We're going to tilt this a little bit, probably tilt it forward just a little bit. And maybe we do that. And you know what? I should have, before I tilted it, I should have copied it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just copy it and change the tilt. So anyway, that's a neck muscle. We're going to copy that. So it's not symmetrical. My apologies. Yeah, it's not symmetrical, but okay. Actually, that drives me crazy. Okay, so we have the neck muscles in place. These neck muscles are really important. And a lot of, I don't know that any of the heads had that, you know. And the relationship of these neck muscles to the throat, that's important too, just on a very fundamental level. And then in the back, the base of the skull, there's two more kind of neck muscles back in the neck. Really what happens is there's a, from the base of the skull back here, there's something called the occipital protuberance right here. There's this occipital ridge that happens at the base of the skull. But to the protuberance, which is right about here, to the 7th cervical vertebrae, which is the base of the neck, there's something called the nuchal ligament, and it's just kind of this like tendon that goes from this point to this point, and it makes a wall. So that gives you the profile of the back of your neck. We're not going to, that's an anatomical thing to know. What we do want to get this profile somewhat, and it's kind of two forms like this. So rather than start out with this weirdly angled thing, I'm going to start out with a new cylinder. And scale it down. And these muscles are a couple different muscles, trapezius and erector spinae muscles that climb up the back of this, you know, your back. And we're not going to get too crazy with it. We just want to get some sense of structure, and they're not as wide as the sternomastoid comes out. So something like that. All right. So we're going to copy that. And we could probably have them touch a little bit more, just to, I mean, that the spine is what's in between them. But there is, you know, you could have them touch for our purposes, so that when we remesh, you know, it becomes a solid. And so what we're missing is that trapezius muscle. These muscles are trapezius. The trapezius comes out and provides kind of like your shoulder profile right here. And so maybe we'll do that with a couple spheres a little bit. Maybe we could do that right now. Add a sphere, come down. So what we could do is we can make it simple. We can make it so that there's not a ridge. You know, the one way to do it is to have a separation between the two parts like we do here, or just kind of have it kind of merge together. I think we're going to just merge it together, because we're trying to get you to a place where you start out with something more structured than we saw in the last project. So it's more thin. It could tilt. We could come up a little bit. Maybe we could bring it out a little bit like that, so it's starting to rough out a bit of a shoulder area. Maybe come out a little bit more. Okay. I guess next we could do clavicles. I suppose that wouldn't hurt. So we'll go back to cylinder, and we'll tilt that and scale it down. Bring it down. Bring it out. This is where the I guess what we'll do is, usually, you know, the clavicles are two separate bones that do not touch each other. They connect to the manubrium, you know, of the sternum. They don't touch each other, but if I want to use symmetry, if I don't want to make two separate clavicles and try to guess it, I'm going to have to do the pair of them out of one. All right. So we don't want to worry about the finesse of the clavicle. You know, like, we don't want to finesse it to get all the attributes correct. We want to use it to represent the base of our bust. All right. So let's see. So I brought it in so that that represents they're really connected right about here. But we could probably push this back a little bit. Wait. So it's touching the sternomastoid. Probably bring it up a little bit. And that's not too bad. We'll want to fill this in too. The next step that's important that a lot of people miss all the time is what happens underneath the jaw, like the chin, right underneath where the double chin occurs. Well, a person may not have a double chin, but there's still something underneath there. If nothing else, there's muscle that connects to a bone from this part of the jaw to a bone in the throat. It's called the hyoid bone. And a lot of muscles connect to that. And if that bone is broken, you could asphyxiate. So punching somebody and breaking that bone, you could kill them, I think. Because what happens is those muscles, then things happen to those muscles, you know. But what do I know, you know? I don't know if that you actually die from that, but it's not a good thing. So the point is like that bone is down right around here, and so those muscles come down to that point. A lot of people have it so that there's nothing underneath. So it looks like there's a vacuum pulling all the flesh and muscle up into the skull. And that's just not going to happen. So may not have a double chin, but there's some fleshiness down there regardless. So we're going to add that sphere. We're going to make that with the sphere. And these are just things when you're sculpting heads. These are things that you look for, which is really kind of the whole point of this me going through this. Yeah, I probably, for a lot of classes, might not have thought to redo this assignment in a sense, but this is a good class. I know people are more capable than what I saw, so I thought we'd probably revisit some of these things, especially since it's online. You know, it's like there's not a chance to really catch some of these issues in real time. You know, you turn in the assignment, then I look at it, but in class you're making the assignment in front of me, and so that way I could give you feedback as you're working on it. So I thought that it would make more sense to just revisit this stuff. All right, I'm trying to find a decent relationship that looks, you know, and maybe that's okay. You know, this right here, just enough of a fleshiness underneath. You know, I'm not terribly happy with it, but you know, it'd be easy for me to take the grab tool and or the move tool and just kind of finesse it, but that's good enough. That gets the point across. What it is there's this convexity that connects the jaw to the neck, basically. Rather than just being this jaw and then this neck coming right into it, you have this transitional or transitory form that connects the two, that gives you some convexity. Because if you're angling your chin down towards the pit of your neck, you know, the flesh gets bunched up there anyway. So that just goes to, you know, you just know that there's going to be something in between this form and that form. So, all right. That's pretty good right now. I mean, it seems like we could do something here to, let's see what we can do. Just to kind of fill in those gaps. Let's add a sphere. Bring it down. What did I do? Bring it down. All right, so yeah, I'm just filling in the holes, and I would probably like to get rid of the ends of the clavicle And maybe I do that just so that you can see this come together a little bit more as a bust. So we'll go to smooth, have it on high. See if this works for us. It'd be cool if there was a clipping tool, like a plane tool in like in Mesh Mixer, where you could just kind of cut that off. Maybe if I use a move, bring it closer, I don't know. Let's see if the smooth will help us out. It's probably, what I could do is I could hide it. No. So what happens is, like, basically, I can unmask that now. Let's see. What I could do is remesh it, and it's gone. And so maybe I'll do that, remesh this for you so that you can get an idea. But I'm not going to remesh it with the skull yet. I'm just going to remesh the neck. I guess we add the throat or the spine or whatever that is underneath it there. Alright, so we go to topology. We're going to remesh that. We don't have to have it remeshed too high. Remesh. And I had a mentor, I guess you could say. I was teaching at a school that she had founded, but at the time she was like 90 years old. I was in my 30s. And she told me that a portrait has to come down to the pit of the neck. It can't be just the head. So, and I don't think too many people did just the head. So that's not the point of my bringing it up. It was good to know, but I think what it is like, this is all about showing you how to include that information. Because a lot of people did include the neck. It was just there was no necessarily no structure to it, and that's understandable, you know. So I'm just smoothing it out a little bit. Is this the way we'd want it to look at the end? Not necessarily. Let me get rid of that grid. But that's a start, you know, that's a start. So now we have more than the skull, we have the neck on there as well.